2025 didn't become the year of Linux desktop, but it was a wild year for the whole gaming community on Linux. This year, the number of verified and playable titles available on Linux reached 24,000. 24,000 is an insane number, but it rather represents quantity, not quality. So, to give you a better understanding of what you might expect switching to Linux, I've compiled a spreadsheet of almost 50 biggest titles released on PC this year, including Expedition 33, Key City 2, Hades 2, and of course, Silksong. To do this, I decided to use two of the most important metrics, a community rating from the Proton database and an official Steam verified program that Valve uses to mark games that work great on Steam Deck. We can't use one of them without the other because sometimes handheld chip just isn't powerful enough, so the game's graphics cannot be configured to run well on Steam Deck. And in some other cases, the game works flawlessly on Steam Deck, but suffers from serious issues on certain desktop configurations. And guess what? Almost 90% of those titles were either listed as Steam Deck verified and playable, or had a Proton database rating of Silver, Gold and higher. And I was able to launch most of them either on my trusty Steam Deck or a desktop PC, which is, by the way, running Arch Linux. Sorry. And to get them working on Linux, I didn't really need to do anything. It's all just plug and play thanks to Proton compatibility layer that is built in into Steam Client. Now, the experience you will have on Linux will vastly depend on whether you're having an NVIDIA or AMD GPU. Most Linux desktop environments, and therefore Linux distros, are currently in the state of transitioning from the old display server, X11, to a promising new one called Wayland, that is bringing better multi-monitor support, variable refresh rate, HDR and all that goodness. The problem is, NVIDIA support for Wayland is just not there yet. VRAM management under the Wayland session is a mess. Some games like Assassin's Creed Shadows can only see 4 gigs of VRAM out of 8 gigs that my RTX 3070 has at its disposal, and after gaming or video editing for some time I get either memory errors or visible fidelity degradation. Keep in mind that none of this is happening on Xorg, so I think it is NVIDIA to blame. Now, I've heard that Wayland support on the AMD side is way better, so I've invited the most prominent Linux historian here on YouTube, who also happens to be a certified AMD user and Wayland enjoyer, to share his perspective on gaming on Linux. Ladies and gentlemen, the man himself, Brodie Robertson. Hi Brodie, thank you for joining me today. What was your experience playing on Linux in 2025?
Hey there, how's it going? As with last year, the majority of my gaming has been done on my Arch system. I do have the Steam Deck right there, I just don't use it anywhere near as much as I should. Now, most of my gaming is done with a controller. For the most part, it's been the 8-bit Do controller, and besides the fact the configuration software is only on Android and Windows, this works great. For the most part, it's just considered to be an Xbox controller, and those are very well supported. I do sometimes use the PlayStation and the Xbox controller, but usually that's for older titles that are a bit finicky. As for the kinds of games I've been playing, it's mostly been what I always do, which is a lot of JRPGs. So that's always fun, but I did go back and try out some racing games again, going back and enjoying some games I liked as a kid, like Need for Speed Underground 2, and trying things I never tried before, like Pro Street, both of which very fun games. As for things on Steam, I recently started playing the Trail series, which is very fun, and besides the launcher being a little bit weird, and this controller not being detected, I don't know why, so I usually play with the Xbox or the PS5 controller, it works perfectly. No issues at all.
Aside from the Wayland problems that I've mentioned before, I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I think there was only one time when I had to change the Proton version, it was for Arc Raiders, but otherwise under the X11 session, everything was working flawlessly. The footage you see right now has been recorded on Linux via Steam Recording Tool, which works much better now. Needless to say, every single Game of the Year nominee that has been released on PC was available on Linux day one, including my favorite Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Ever since I read Sapkowski's Hussey trilogy in my teenagehood, I dreamed about a video game set in medieval Bohemia, and with both Key City 1 and Key City 2, my dream finally became a reality. Key City 2 is an authentic historical RPG with an extremely immersive world and truly believable characters. From the gameplay standpoint, it's more like an immersive sim, and even though movement sometimes felt a bit clunky by immersive sim standards, and also some animations were broken in a very Bethesda-like manner, that didn't stop me from enjoying the most historically accurate digital version of Bohemia. By the way, Brodie, which game did you enjoy the most this year? Is it Silksong? Is it Expedition 33?
Okay, when it comes to Game of the Year, I live in South Australia. I can take a train and literally walk from there to Team Cherry's office and go knock on their door. I would like to say Silksong. I just have a lot of problems with the game as a fan of Metroidvania games. I think a lot of the runbacks are really dumb. I think double damage and everything doesn't make any sense. It makes the health calculation weird. Just halve the health bar and make everything do 1 damage. That makes a lot more sense. For me, it has to be Expedition 33. I've not played KCD2. I've heard it's really good, but Expedition 33 is one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely adore it. I love the soundtrack. Ben Starr is probably one of my favorite voice actors right now, and the story is absolutely phenomenal. Also, how could anyone not love Monoko's theme?
Target marked.
Flames that rage.
I would say the biggest problem I've had this year is I can't finish playing Ori on my main system. For some reason, every time I open it, it just crashes. I install it on the Steam Deck, it's fine. Nobody else has this problem, nobody's reported it. I don't know what's causing it, I don't know what to do. I've changed Proton versions, I've reinstalled it, I've gotten rid of my save file. I can't fix it. I have no idea why the game doesn't work, but this might just be a me problem because no one else seems to have it. Most of my other problems were relatively minor things, like I played one game where cutscenes just sometimes didn't play the cutscene. Again, changed Proton version, it worked fine, but these are very minor things, and once you know about them, once you know to just change a Proton version when something weird happens, it's not that big of a deal.
Anti-cheat situation in 2025 have also become slightly better. Recent multiplayer releases like Arc Raiders, Elden Ring Night Train, and even Rematch are all working on Linux despite being protected by anti-cheat software. And don't forget that you can always play some older multiplayer titles, including Battlefield 4, Counter-Strike 2, Insurgency Sandstorm, and of course, the finals.
When it comes to multiplayer games, nowadays, I'm not that big of a multiplayer gamer. I did this year, though, play Split Fiction, and that game worked perfectly, which I would expect from a co-op game because it's not an anti-cheat game. The only, proper multiplayer game I played is another game that doesn't have an anti-cheat problem, and that's Path of Exile. But this is also not a new game. It does run kinda badly, but Path of Exile runs kinda badly on everything because the game is horribly optimized and has 10 billion projectiles on screen. As for newer multiplayer games, besides Split Fiction, I just really haven't experienced it. I'm just not in this part of the gaming space anymore. Nowadays, I just like my JRPGs and I like my indie stuff. I've been playing a lot of Silksong on stream, I've been playing through the Yakuza series, I've been playing Ball Pit. Ball Pit is very fun, highly, highly recommend it. And yeah, all of these games just, for the most part, work flawlessly.
Two major multiplayer titles of this year, Battlefield 6 and Call of Duty Black Ops 7, are not available on Linux though. They come with invasive kernel-level anti-cheat that requires enabled secure boot, and it seems that the studios that made those two games are not interested in supporting Linux at all. The same can be applied to other multiplayer titles like Apex Legends, GTA Online, PUBG, Rust, and etc. To be honest, I don't think that video game publishers would care about Linux until 15% of their revenue stream would come from Linux gamers, which means the only way to win those developers and publishers on our side is to gain a significant portion of market share. 3 years ago, Valve has released a Steam Deck, the portable gaming PC powered by Linux that provided a surprisingly seamless user experience. It is fairly reasonable to say that Steam Deck has changed the landscape of gaming on Linux forever, and tripled Linux market share from about a 1% to 3% according to Steam Hardware and Software Survey. Which begs the question, with Valve planning to launch a new generation of Steam machines soon, do you think we might see a big jump in Linux market share next year?
I am apprehensively excited about what's going to happen with the Steam machine because there's been a lot of questions about pricing. I don't know what it's going to cost. What I do know is if it is too much, most people are just not going to care. I am very interested in getting one, or sending me one if you would like to do so. But I don't know what price it needs to be for people to buy it. If they do, I could see this being another tick up in market share, like it was with the Steam Deck. Do I think it is going to change everything? Do I think we're going to go to like 10%? No. But 4%, 4.5%, I think that's very doable.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the release of Steam machines too, even though I already have a desktop PC with roughly similar specs. I'm a huge fan of small and compact computers, and also I was thinking lately about building a full AMD system for myself, since NVIDIA's situation on Wayland is not getting any better. So if Valve would be able to price it reasonably well, I would definitely buy it. And then, because I feel like there are lots of PC enthusiasts out there willing to try Linux but have no interest in installing it themselves and figuring out how to maintain Arch or other popular distro, I would expect a rise in market share up to 5% or maybe 6% by the end of 2026. Given the fact that most video games released this year on PC were supporting Linux from day one, either willingly or thanks to the Proton magic, I have really high hopes for 2026. Will it become a year of Linux desktop? I don't know, but I would be super happy to make this exact video in December next year to see how Steam machines affected the gaming on Linux for the next 12 months. This was Reluctant Anarchist, and I have nothing left to say.